I have a superpower. I do. I have a superpower. And my superpower is that teenagers talk to me. But not only do they talk to me, but they open up and they share their thoughts and their feelings. I am a school based therapist at a middle school. I am forever grateful for two of my clients, who I will call Lauren and Kelly. They showed so much courage in opening up and sharing their struggle with me, and it really challenged my way of thinking. During my first conversation I ever had with Kelly, she explained to me how she was grounded because she was suspended from school after having a razor blade in her locker. The school and her parents automatically assumed it was a weapon, but to Kelly, it was a tool. It was a tool to self harm, a tool to release the overwhelming pain that she was feeling inside. What she needed in this moment was compassion, support, not punishment. I couldn't understand how punishing her would solve anything, but I was only seeing part of the problem. I was seeing the part where there was a teenage girl who was depressed and now isolated from her social support. But then I saw her mom. Her mom was doing the absolute best that she could, but she had no idea what to do, so she grounded her. Unfortunately, she unwillingly and unknowingly put her daughter in far more danger. Because what Kelly shared with me was that she would sit alone in her room, her mind would race, and she would contemplate suicide with no one to talk to. And she's not alone. There are so many teenagers that I hear from that are struggling, and they're so upset when they are disconnected from their friends and their phones. And at first, I didn't think anything of it. Grounding is such a strong social norm in our society, it's like a rite of passage. I've been grounded more than once. My parents have been grounded. My parents' parents have grounded. We all turned out okay. And now, as a mom, it's my turn, and I get to ground my son. And I did. But I was doing it without even understanding why I was doing it in the first place. And after my conversation with Kelly, I got curious. I really dialed in, and I really started listening to teenagers and trying to identify some of the trends. I saw how much teenagers suffer alone in their room, and this is the times when thoughts of suicide and self-harm come up. According to research from the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, 48% of survivors from past suicide attempts only thought about this for less than 60 minutes. This means impulsivity completely takes over. There is not a whole lot of time for intervention. And this is why suicide prevention is so critical. However, I identified a trend. It is really hard to help teenagers without access to their phones. My heart completely shattered for Lauren in our session. She was going through a cycle of depression, and she was also grounded at the time. And I assessed that she was at high risk for suicide. So we automatically began safety planning. However, she broke down and she said, I can't do it. And I thought she said this figuratively, but no, she really meant that she couldn't do it. She could not fill out a safety plan worksheet that she had in front of her because she didn't have any of the phone numbers memorized to her friends. And even if she did, she had no way of reaching them. And she also couldn't find activities that would distract her. And I know this is probably hard to believe, but for Lauren, she's a Gen Zer. She did not grow up with a home phone. She only knows her cell phone. She even reads her books by smartphone app, not paperbacks. And she hangs out with her friends online, not outside. And so I called her dad and I asked, will you please consider allowing Lauren to have her phone while she's in a state of depression? And he said no, absolutely not. He was convinced that if Lauren was feeling that bad, she would come talk to him. Or that this was just an excuse for her to get her cell phone back. And while I was really disappointed, I was not surprised at his reaction. Because what I hear from parents in sessions all the time is this isn't going to happen to us. Suicide will not impact our family. Or my teenager's just being a teenager, so dramatic. But according to the CDC, Suicide is the second cause of death in teenagers. And I can tell you, with 95% of my clients sitting across from me with tears streaming down their face, is that they can't or they won't go and talk to their parents. Who they will go talk to is their best friend. I mean, this was true for me. Anytime I was having an epic meltdown, I always went to my best friend. And I still do. When I'm having a bad day, she is the first person that I call. So I don't know why we expect anything different from our teenagers. We lose touch with this somewhere along the way, somewhere between becoming adults and becoming parents. And ultimately, what we're doing is we're taking a really good coping strategy and we're turning it into a form of punishment. We should be encouraging our kids to form strong and healthy friendships. Encourage them to reach out for help when they need it, even when it breaks our heart when it's not to us. So the question I always get is, okay, so if we're not grounding our teenagers, then what? Well, the answer isn't always clear or simple, but what years and years of research have suggested is that punishments just don't work, but discipline can work. Now, the two terms are often used interchangeably, but they mean two entirely different things. First, punishment is reactive. It's a tool to control. It's used to make somebody pay for their mistakes. It can be helpful in situations, for instance, when a child is about to reach for a hot stove and you swat their hand away. However, long-term punishments always backfire. They leave kids angry, and they leave them very resentful. And this was the case for Lauren. She felt controlled, misunderstood, and more distant from her father than she ever has before. And here's the thing. She could not remember why she was grounded this time. No idea. She was not learning any lessons. And this is why discipline can work. Discipline is different because it's proactive. It allows the space for individuals to learn their lesson, to learn new skills to control their thoughts, their actions, and their behaviors. I find the 4 C's of discipline very helpful. Be clear, consistent with your communication and consequences. Establish rules up front and make them be known, and then stick with them. For example, there will only be video games played after homework is done and the chores are completed. And then stick with this, because once you allow the rules to be broken, they're not rules anymore. They're more like guidelines or recommendations. And then when you do enforce the rules randomly, it causes a whole other set of 4 C's: chaos, confusion, conflict, and crying. And this is the exact opposite of what we want. Also, I want to acknowledge that there's hesitancy and fear when it comes to teenagers and using electronic devices. I get it. The internet is a dangerous place. I don't want to downplay things like cyberbullying, social media addiction, drug-seeking behavior, and things like that. Those are real threats. It's okay to set parental control measures. I encourage it. It's also okay to monitor your teen's activity. Make sure that it's not becoming toxic. It's okay to set limitations. But please, parents, please don't let your teenagers sit alone in their room with absolutely nobody to talk to. With suicide being the second leading cause of death, we need to challenge the social norm of grounding. We need to encourage connection. I'm so honored to be Kelly and Lauren's voice today and the voice of all the other teenagers who are struggling alone with no one to talk to.